Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I am very excited to finally bring you my top 10 cards from Darkwing Blast. The set officially was released today? Is it tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow? Today? Whatever. It's like officially released either today or tomorrow. Yeah, the set's actually a really solid core set. It is going to affect the meta in some very, very particular ways. But today, top 10 list of the top 10 cards in the entire set based on, a couple of different things, how they're going to affect the meta right now, future implications they might have, and just general overall power of the cards. Before we get into it, though, I'm going to throw one shout out here to one of the cards that didn't make the top 10 list, but it was really close to. But other than that, I'm not going to spend too much time on any of the cards individually, just going to give a brief overview and my thoughts on why it ends up in its place on the list. If you want to let me know your thoughts down below, please throw them there on what I got wrong, what you think needs to be switched around, or if something's not on the list at all that you think deserve to be, let me know down below. But here we go. First honorable mention, Tier Limit Scream. I feel like this card's really, really good. I love, like one of the things I love about Tier more than anything else is that it's just Lightsworn, but better. They took my least favorite part of Lightsworn. Half the deck's really good mills, half the deck is good to draw, and they usually don't cross over. Almost all of the Tier Limit cards are like good to draw and good to mill, so they're kind of just good always to just see at any point. So this card is no exception. It's really good. It even helps the deck grind really well. It's a great card, but didn't make it for me because I felt like there were just cards that were overall more powerful. So let's get started. Number 10, Wollow, founder of the Drudge Dragon. Such a cool card. He gets, messing with your opponent's graveyard to not only just like banish their stuff, but to actually just steal it. Or I'm sorry, either shuffle into the deck or steal their cards, set them to your own field. It is kind of crazy. Doesn't negate him, no restrictions on that. He also gets huge. He says all monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for every card in your opponent's graveyard. If you play against Tier, everything could just be boosted like by 2,000 plus. He's already 24. He could be over 4,000 super easily, and he could just be threatening that way, even if he's used all of his materials. This card is crazy. I know he's a rank 6, so that doesn't come up for a lot of different decks, but I feel like he'll find a place at some point. Next up here, Naturia Mole Cricket. This card is undeniably insane. This archetype sucks balls. The only reason this archetype is going to be not even playable, but like an actual rogue deck, is this card right here, because this card is so freaking insane. So give this card a read if you have not yet. He definitely deserves it. This card is so crazy. Next up, Myriologic Aggregator. This card is a really cool generic send target for any of the cards we've seen. Some of the Dogmatica cards, other cards that get you a generic send from your extra deck. He's going to get a negation effect on that, but as well as just being like a decent rank 9 to make as well, because he gives you the effect to send another card from your extra deck to the grave, which is quite good as well. It's pretty good. There's no complaints on that for me. It's just a really good card. I think he'll just come up, but to be fair, I don't think he's like so obscene. I think he's just going to come up in a couple different ways. We'll see him here and there, and I think that's enough. I think he'll find his way into metagames. Next up, I have Spellbound, and you might think this is a little bit high on the list, not low enough here, but I have some major concerns about this card. Going second, I don't like. People are like, oh, it's like a D-barrier, but it's better going second. It's more versatile. Technically, that's true. I don't necessarily completely disagree with that, but it's so matchup dependent. Like for this card to be great, it has to be like. You have to be, like, I guess, going second versus Fluwanderies, because you can keep them for doing a quick tribute on your turn. But, like, it's so matchup dependent, because not a lot of decks are, like, Tier is fusing against you, so that's cool, but a lot of times they fuse from Grave, so they don't even care, right? Hauck's gone, so nobody's quick synchroing on you anymore. Like, quick Exceeds, okay, whatever. Quick Link Summons, IP Masquerena. Like, it's just so mid going second. So it's like, is it more versatile? I guess going second, but it's just not enough good going second that like really puts it over D-Barrier. Plus, going first, it's worse than D-Barrier. The coolest thing about D-Barrier is even if your opponent has Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, or whatever, and they fire it immediately, you still chain D-Barrier and they cannot play. If they start with those cards and just wipe Spellbound, if somebody just Cosmic Cyclones and snipes Spellbound at the beginning of the turn, it literally did nothing. This card literally did nothing that duel. So they have some trade-offs, but I just think it's like okay. I'm sure it'll be played at some point. I think it's a solid card. I just don't know if it's like that overwhelmingly better than D-Bear. I think it's worse going first, a little bit better going second, and that's it. Next up, Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. I know some people are low on this card. Stop being low on this card. I think this card's insane. I think this card's generically good enough to eventually see play just straight up in regular decks, not even just back row decks. Straight up regular decks. This card has so many cool applications to it. The fact that it's finally like a Book of Moon-esque card, or even Book of Eclipse. But all those cards got so much worse when we entered the Link era, because going second, if anybody already had Links established, these cards were garbage. But the fact that these cards also answer those cards now is so insane. Also, Towers monsters, not the biggest deal, won't come up all that often, but if you do play it in a trap deck, one of the biggest weaknesses for a lot of different trap decks is stuff like Towers. They just lose to it. They don't have outs to it. This is a trap card that just straight up outs Towers cards, so you have to respect that. It's really cool. I like this card. I feel like it's good going first. I think it's good going second. I really think this card has a lot of power to it. Can't wait to see people come, like, splash it, make cool synergistic uses of it. Some, like, sub-tears, flip all your sub-tears down, get a bunch of resources going. Like, I don't know. Pretty cool. I like it. Next up here, Muckraker from the Underworld. I believe we're at number 5 here. Yeah, we are. So number 5 on the list, Muckraker from the Underworld. I think this card's sweet. I don't think this card's going to be that crazy out the gate. I think there's a couple of rogue decks that'll be able to use it. Sure, your Labyrinths, your, maybe stuff like Phantom Knights, maybe stuff like your Burning Abysses, right? Lair of Darkness, maybe. Stuff like that, generally. Maybe even, oh my gosh, what are they called? Unchained. Jesus, Unchained. There's a handful of these rogue fiend decks that can use it right now, but I don't think anything's going to rise to true competitive, like, tier 1 level because of this card. But I do believe one day a tier 1 deck will play this card. I think as soon as we get a new crazy fiend deck in the future, if this card becomes insane, becomes one of the best staples in a deck like that, if it's just any kind of decently playing fiend deck, I think this card will be there. And I think it's really solid. I think it's really cool. Darkworld's another one. Another fiend deck that'll be able to use this out the gate. You got to respect it. I think this card's pretty good. Next up here we have Spright Sprind. Kind of in the same fashion, where like Muckraker will be insane anytime a good fiend deck comes around. Spright Sprind will be crazy anytime a good level 2 comes around that's like that has like any graveyard implications. It also has the bonus effect of like the bounce effect, which is cool on the opponent's turn. But all in all, I think it's just a really sweet card. I mean, they'd have to ban multiple cards to make this card useless. I don't think they'll ever make it useless. But yeah, I just think at some point down the line we'll get a crazy level 2 again that comes out. Maybe if they ban Nimble Angler or something like that, they'll come out with something else that's crazy, and this card will be able to abuse it. It'll come up, and also it's going to be way better right now. It's going to be good right now. It's going to make Sprites better, for sure. So there you go, number 4 on the list. Moving to number 3, World Sea Dragon Zelantis. There is an argument to make this card the number 1 card on the list. I don't think it's going to do a ton right this second, but I do believe one day this card will be banned. I think the implications of this card, the fact that it's like technically wiping the board, I know a lot of stuff comes back, but you can force your opponent's stuff to come back in face down defense mode, so they're just kind of turned off. While your stuff comes back in attack mode, whatever, and you're ready to just run over your opponent. The fact that if you could quick link this on your opponent's turn or something, this is like an insane interruption. Or there's other implications as well, being able to abuse non-once per turn effect monsters. Like, use their effects when they're summoned, link them into this, banish them all, or not link them into this, but link into this while they're on the field, banish them, bring them back, and then they get to trigger again. Like, there are some insane implications with this card in multiple different ways. It can potentially be disruption. It can potentially just lead you to killing your opponent outright. It can abuse non-once per turn effects. This is a crazy card. I do believe it'll be banned one day because I think it'll just have crazy abuse. It'll abuse some like crazy cards, like older cards probably. But when it does, I think that ban will come down for sure. This card will be crazy one day for sure. Number 2 on my list, Vistral Magnamut. Yeah, this card's really good. We've talked about Vistrals. They're just like DD Crows on legs with bonus effects. It's kind of all you need to know, right? It's already just DD Crow. I mean, it is a little bit type locked, so there will be matchups like Floowandereeze where like these cards are just straight up dead. as far as interruption goes. But like, as long as you can feed lights and darks into your own grave, they'll be able to come out as at least engine cards to help you just push like pressure onto your opponent. So that still works. Magnamut by far is the best monster in the archetype, by the way. Lubellion has a case, though. Maybe it's not that far. I think Lubellion, because Lubellion can search Magnamut, but Magnamut's way better to draw going second because it's actually a hand trap. Whereas Lubellion is, plays into boards okay, but, sometimes the hand traps is what you need to limit your opponent from going full combo. So this card's crazy. The fact that it searches any dragon monster in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just straight up bananas. When I read that effect for the first time, I was like, this is insane. I don't care how slow this search effect is. This is crazy. Especially because you could just go second, hand trap your opponent with this, and then just search dragon that's like, just, helps you play going. You just search something that, like, based on the situation in the duel already, after seeing the first turn transpire, you just grab something that you think applies best to that scenario. It's insane. This effect is so crazy. This card's insane. But that being said, I still don't think he ends up in my number one spot for me. For me, it's Kashtira Fenrir. I think for most people, it's going to be Kashtira Fenrir. I think the one thing that kind of like balances the Bestials a little bit is that type locking. There are going to be matchups where the cards feel just mediocre, and there are going to be matchups where they feel crazy. Specifically, Tier Elements, the best deck in the game. I think that's why those cards are so cool, because they design them pretty much to handle the Tier Element decks, which is the best deck in the game, so you got to respect that. They're also good against Spright. But Fenrir is crazy, because Fenrir is just Pank if Pank was never bad going first. This card is good going first, it's great going second, and everything in between. Like, there's just nothing wrong with this card. The fact that it can search itself, so you don't have to play extra bad cards in the archetype. Like, you don't have to play unicorns just because you need a search target for Fenrir. You might as well plus. You just search another one. That way, if you ever have your board cleared, you just already have a guaranteed follow-up. Or it's discard fodder. It is just a free +1. So, this card is crazy. I'm honestly terrified of this card, whereas I think Bestials are a little more specific to the metagame, a little bit more specific to the deck you're playing. This card can almost be dropped in any single deck you play, aside from stuff like Flunders, because they lock you out of special summoning pretty much at all for the turn. That's really the only instance I can think of is like decks like that. Aside from that, like Fenrir should be in your deck. It just should be, because it's just too insane. It banishes face down, which is like one of the most, which probably is the most broken removal mechanic in the game. This card's crazy. I think it's the best card in the set. It's an ultra. Somehow Konami was able to make this an ultra and not a secret, so it is, even still, if it's at like 50 as an ultra, that's still probably a steal, because this card is just something you should have at least 2 copies of in almost any deck you play. It's crazy. You gotta respect it. This card's, I don't even know what to say anymore about this card. It's gonna be dumb. But yeah, there you go. There's my top 10 cards from Darkwing Blast. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below on your preferred order of these cards, or anything that just didn't make the list at all. But yeah, I'm out of here for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, stay tuned for more content. Subscribe, all that shenanigans, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.